Death Knight was released with March of the Lich King, Hearthstone's 22nd expansion. But what about all 21 expansions before that? Welcome to the second episode of a series where I'll go back to every expansion Death Knight wasn't present for and give them cards to match the set. Last time we ended with the cards for Journey to Ungro, so this time we're starting with Knights of the Frozen Throne, where a familiar face returns for Death Knight.
None may enter the Master's sanctum.
Marrowgar the Eternal is a 7-mana 9/7 legendary undead with 3 unholy rules, and it has Reborn. Marrowgar also has both a battle cry and a death rattle that spends 5 corpses to raise a 5/5 bone golem with taunt. So if you have enough corpses you will get at least 3 5/5s with taunt, and then there's always the chance for more shenanigans. This is meant to be a new spin on the old Marrowgar, which doesn't allow for as crazy results as the old one, but hopefully should be a little more consistent. I also made some support for Marrowgar. These cards are all built around the Reborn mechanic, just like some of the cards Death Knight will be getting next week in the Great Dark Beyond. But wait a second, didn't Reborn come out 6 expansions later in Saviors of Old Doom? It sure did. It's used here because these cards all follow a certain rule set, as you can see here. Okay, so the biggest selling point of Knights of the Frozen Throne were the Death Knight hero cards for each class. I even recently made one for Demon Hunter. But Death Knight is, well, already a Death Knight. So what is a Death Knight hero card to the Death Knight class? An opportunity for flavor is what it is. Presenting Ner'zhul the First. If you don't know, the title of the Lich King has been held by multiple characters in the Warcraft universe. The first was Ner'zhul. Ner'zhul the First costs 6 mana, gives 5 armor, and will deal 2 damage to all enemies when you play him. And he will also change your hero power to Helm of Domination rank 1, which lets you discover an undead for 2 mana. In addition to all of that, Ner'zhul will also add Arthas II to your hand. Arthas was the second person to become the Lich King, first merging with Ner'zhul, but then taking over completely. Arthas will deal 3 damage to all enemies, give you 5 armor, and change your hero power to Helm of Domination rank 2, which still lets you discover an undead, but also gives it +1/+1. Arthas will add Bolvar III to your hand. Bolvar was the last person to hold the title of the Lich King, and when you play him he will deal 4 damage to all enemies, give you 5 armor, and give you the final upgrade to the hero power, Helm of Domination rank 3, which also reduces the cost of the undead by 2. Now let's move on to the expansion after Knights of the Frozen Throne, Kobolds and Catacombs. Kobolds introduced a new keyword, Recruit, which would summon a minion from your deck. For Death Knight I made this card that features Recruit. I also made this legendary for Death Knight, Necrominer Wix.
It's not junk!
Wix is a 5-mana 4/4 undead with 1 Frost rune, and when you play him he will give all other friendly minions a death rattle that adds a random legendary card to your hand and changes its cost to 1.
It's treasure!
Kobolds and Catacombs also introduced the Spellstone mechanic, which were spells that were able to get upgraded twice. Both Demon Hunter and Death Knight recently got a Spellstone in Whispang's workshop, but I decided to make another for Death Knight anyway. Lesser Saronite Spellstone is a 2-mana shadow spell with a Frost and Unholy rune. It will give a random friendly minion +1/+1 and Reborn, but after you spend 3 corpses while it's in your hand, it will upgrade to Saronite Spellstone, which will give 2 random friendly minions +1/+1 and Reborn. Spend another 3 corpses and you get Greater Saronite Spellstone, which will buff 3 of your minions. Okay, the selling point of Kobolds and Catacombs were the legendary weapons each class got. I've of course also made one for Death Knight. Maw of the Damned is a 7-mana 5/3 weapon with triple blood runes. It has lifesteal and another line of text that says any health restored by this weapon is added to your hero's maximum health. This means that whenever you attack with this weapon and restore health to your hero, your maximum health will also increase by the same amount as the health you restored. So say if your hero was at 25 health and you restored 5 health through this weapon, then your health would be at 30, but you would still be wounded because your maximum health would now be at 35. However, this also means that any excess healing would go to waste, and if you attack with full health and don't lose any health, your maximum health would not increase. The next expansion released was the Witchwood. For the Witchwood I made this legendary for Death Knight, Lord Walden.
They'll all be mine in the end.
Lord Walden is a 4-mana 3/6 undead with a Blood and Unholy rune. Walden has Taunt and a Death Rattle that will deal 3 damage to a random enemy and then spread to another friendly minion, meaning that minion will also gain the Death Rattle. The Witchwood introduced the keyword Echo. Cards with Echo are repeatable on the turn they are played, but the copies can cost less than 1. I made this card for Death Knight that features Echo. The other legendary I made for Death Knight is the Wicker King. The Wicker King is a 5-mana 4/6 for 2 unholy, and he has Rush. Then when he dies, he will spend 3 corpses to resummon himself with 1 health. But if you have 6 or more corpses, he will instead spend 6 corpses to resummon himself with full health. Moving on, we got the next expansion, the Boomsday Project. For the Boomsday Project, I made this legendary minion.
Excellent. A new test subject.
Lich Dr. Nabirius is a 5-mana 4/4 undead with a Frost and Unholy rune. Nabirius will summon 2/2/2 Nabirius' experiments with Reborn, and when one dies, the other will gain +2/+2. You may notice that these experiments have the all-minion type. This is because Nabirius would serve as the core for a new menagerie deck for Death Knight. I made these cards to support this new deck. The Boomsday Project also introduced a legendary spell for each class, and the one I made for Death Knight is Nabirius' Phylactery. This 7-mana shadow spell with 2 unholy rules will give you 10 corpses when used, and then it will cost the first minion you play each turn to cost corpses instead of mana, for the rest of the game. And since you get 10 corpses right away, you can cheat out a big minion immediately. But after that, this effect could even become a hindrance if you don't have the corpses to play the minion. Alright, I'm gonna end the video here, but we will continue this in a couple of weeks with the cards for the expansions after this one. Thanks for watching, leave a like if you enjoyed the video and subscribe for more custom Hearthstone content. See you next time!